Thank you all for joining us here at Live Now from Fox on this Wednesday, October 8th. My name is Carel Lajara. We are going to turn now to another major story that we are following very closely here, and that is the fact that former FBI Director James Comey going to be appearing in court later on today, his first court appearance since being indicted. The two-count indictment alleging that Comey made a false statement to the Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30th of 2020 by denying he had authorized an associate to serve as an anonymous source to the news media and that he obstructed a congressional proceeding. Comey has denied all wrongdoing. A couple of live looks that we do have coming out on this Wednesday. This first one here, taking a look just outside of the courthouse there in Alexandria, Virginia, where Comey is expected to make that court appearance. And then we also have this live image just outside of Comey's home, also in Virginia. Now, joining us now to talk a little bit more about what we can expect today is a trial attorney, Joe Tacopina. Joe, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so let's start with this. I mean, this is a pretty big case that we're following along here. Tell me, what are some of the unique aspects when it comes to prosecuting a case that really centers around a high-ranking government official?
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to peel it down to the law and the facts. And it's that simple. Obviously, there's a lot of political banter going on back and forth. Was this a vindictive revenge indictment? Was this something that was done for political gain? You have to look at the facts, and the facts are: it appears that Comey lied twice under oath to congressional proceedings. He lied to Grassley in 2017 and again in 2020 to Cruz regarding did he authorize leaks of this material. We know he in fact did. So I mean, honestly, it's not that outrageous that he was indicted. People are acting like this was made up out of whole cloth. A grand jury did in fact indict him on these charges. So there's got to be something to this case. And I don't think it's that complicated. He was asked, did he authorize these leaks? Now, we know, in fact, he did. McCabe, his number two, at one point said he was authorized by Comey, or Comey told him to do this. And then more importantly, the Columbia law professor, who's Comey's best friend, was given these documents by Comey to leak. So, he's sitting there saying he never caused anyone to leak, but in fact, he did. So I don't think this is going to be such a slam dunk for the defense that some people claim it's going to be.
And I'm glad you brought up the defense, because I do want to touch on that a little bit here as we also take, once again, this live look just outside of the courthouse there in Virginia. So Comey has been saying that he's looking forward to trial. The defense, though, most likely is trying to get this entire indictment tossed out before it heads to trial. You've already kind of framed it as it's a little bit difficult because a lot of evidence has already been shown. So what would be the strategy going forward for the defense attorneys?
Oh, obviously to make this about politics, to make sure that, first of all, you're right, they're going to move to dismiss this for legal insufficiency grounds, that there was no materiality here in the false statements if they were false. But at the end of the day, let's assume this has to go before a jury. This is going to be a trial about, putting the president on trial and basically saying Donald Trump caused this indictment. This indictment was ordered by a sitting president to his Justice Department officials. And therefore, a jury has to acquit. Now, some jurors might be inclined to accept something like that. Some might not. Don't forget, President Trump won the popular vote. So he will have, people on there who will reject that argument, especially in Virginia. It's my opinion, it's a very tough place to practice as a defense attorney, because there are a lot of very conservative people there. So I don't know, but the defense is clearly going to be, he didn't lie, and he's being prosecuted because he's an enemy, so to speak, of President Trump. That's going to be the defense in a nutshell.
I also want to bring us out to this, another live image that we have just outside of Comey's home there. I mean, there's cameras everywhere waiting for this court appearance to begin. I want to turn our attention now to the judge. Now, they were randomly assigned to this case, Michael Nachmanoff, and he is a Biden administration appointee, a former chief federal defender. Joe, when we look at this and maybe what the defense is trying to plan, what prosecutors need at this moment to get that conviction going forward, is the judge going to be a big impact to this case? Is it possible that we're going to be seeing pushback for this judge to either be removed? And first of all, can they be removed?
Only if there's an obvious conflict. And I don't think just because someone's appointed by a different party president, that's a conflict. So unless this judge does anything to indicate that he cannot be fair and impartial in this case to the government, there's no basis for removal at all. So, but it doesn't mean he's, like he's a federal judge now, and he's got to also follow the law and the facts. The only time it comes into play is his political leanings, if you will, or potentially his loyalty to one party or another, one president or another. The only time it really comes into play is in the motions to dismiss. Okay, so we'll see, how he handles that. Many people claim that the judge sitting in President Trump's case in Florida, the documents case, who just ultimately dismissed the case, was a Trump appointee, and therefore that's why she dismissed it. She dismissed it based on her understanding of the law. But so people will obviously always point to a political leanings, so to speak, of a judge. But federal judges take their job seriously, and they do, and they really are the smartest jurists in the land. And all they have to do is just follow the law and the facts, and not let politics get in the way. And hopefully, there's still some of that left in the justice system. And if that happens, this case should go to trial, in my opinion. But so we'll see.
I want to quote something from the Associated Press in the article that they published on this case. They say this, quote, "The moment is nonetheless loaded with historical significance, given the case has amplified concerns that the Justice Department is being weaponized." Now, Joe, you have mentioned a few times during this conversation that is one of the things that people are talking about a lot here, except for the fact that we are trying to focus on the facts of this case. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But can you compare this to maybe another really high-profile case? Is this comparable to something that happened maybe in recent memory?
Well, all the people on the left screaming right now about, the vindictive nature of this prosecution, or the fact that this is a political prosecution, have very short-term memories. I represented President Trump when he was being indicted like every other day, it seemed like. Okay, on cases that really had no merit whatsoever. So, they weren't screaming then about weaponizing the justice system or politicizing the justice system. But now everyone seems to be offended by the fact that Jim Comey was indicted. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Is that what they say? So I don't know if it's exactly analogous to any other case, but we've come from a period now where it seems like the justice system is being used as a weapon at times. I'm not saying that's the case here. Here, to me, he testified before Congress. He said X, it turned out to be Y. It's a lie. A grand jury indicted him. So, but is there another case that we could? Sure. Michael Cohen was prosecuted for this exact same thing and went to jail. So there are others who have been prosecuted for lying to Congress. It's not like a novelty.
And then, Joe, before I let you go, just a quick recap here for our viewers. In arraignment today, what can we expect to learn, or what can we expect to happen?
It's nothing aside from the circus-like atmosphere. He'll be arraigned. He'll be released. He'll be read the 2 charges. They'll set a motion schedule. It's very pro forma. The arraignments are very anticlimactic. If someone's looking for something big to happen, like the judge will say dismissed, or Comey will plead guilty or something. Nothing. It's just going to be, this is now the beginning of the train leaving the so-called station. This is the beginning of the legal process. He'll be arraigned. The judge will set schedules for motion, for discovery, and away we go. And then the case starts to be litigated. Either, they'll make tons of motions to dismiss, for different causes. Eventually, discovery will be turned over to the defense. And, if nothing works out, they'll set a trial schedule. And it's not a complicated case. It's a very 2-page indictment. So they don't really need much time to get ready for trial here, I wouldn't think. So, but, today's not going to be revealing, and I don't expect any bombshells.
Joe Tacopina, trial attorney. We do appreciate your time here at Live Now from Fox, breaking down really what we know so far, what we can expect. Not much today, but we'll see what happens going forward. Take care.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we do want to step away for a quick commercial break. Before I do so, though, I want to showcase this. We're waiting for President Trump to possibly issue another statement later on today regarding the situation, but this on your screen is what he first posted on his Truth Social account back in September 25th of 2025 when James Comey was first indicted. He says this: "Justice in America. One of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation. Make America great again."